The Tuk School wasn't always a place of fear. Decades ago, it was a lively, functioning institution that echoed with the laughter of children and the dedicated voices of its teachers. But there was an underlying darkness to this place, one that no one could figure out. Locals would whisper of strange occurrences that would take place, students falling ill for no reason at all, the feeling of being watched, and the inexplicable chill that lingered even in the heat of summer. It wasn't until a tragedy happened that the stories began. It is said that a teacher, either driven by despair or madness, took her life on the school grounds. However, the stories vary depending on who tells them. Some will tell you it happened in the teachers' quarters, while others claim it was under the grand banyan tree that once stood in the courtyard. The chilling details of how it happened are what still remains consistent. She used a red rope, a symbol of anger and vengeance in local lore. The school was never the same from that day forward. This is a chilling story of one such encounter. The air felt heavy as I stood at the edge of the crumbling path leading to the infamous Tuk School. The remains of the old building loomed ahead, surrounded by a suffocating silence. Even the crickets seemed to keep their distance. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but it was just enough light for me to see the graffiti on the walls and the weeds reclaiming the school. My friends dared me to come alone and to bring back proof that it was haunted. At this point, I was starting to think that this was not worth it, but would I be able to endure the endless teasing I would get if I chickened out? But my friends weren't entirely wrong. I'd grown up hearing the same stories as everyone else, about the woman in white, the screams that echoed through the halls, and the choking sensation that overtook those who dared to enter. But I couldn't let them call me a coward. I had to prove them wrong. The rusty gate creaked as I pushed it open, the sound cutting through the stillness like a scream. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, the cool night air the only thing calming me down. The school was overgrown, with a tangle of roots and debris. My footsteps crunched on the gravel, the sound louder than it should have been. I scanned the area, half hoping to find some sign of life, but there was only the skeletal frame of the school ahead. Inside, the air turned colder, carrying the faint smell of decaying life. My flashlight flickered as I stepped into the first corridor. "Great," I whispered. "Don't film me now, please." The hallway was a minefield of shattered glass and broken tiles. Desks were overturned, and there were faded posters and ominous graffiti all over the walls. "Turn back," one read. Another simply said, "She sees you." I brushed off the shiver that ran down my spine and pressed on. I was determined to reach the teachers' quarters, where the stories claimed most of the activity happened. But as I moved deeper, the temperature dropped further. My breath fogged the air and the silence grew deafening. That's when I heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping. It echoed down the corridor, deliberate and unnerving. I froze with my flashlight trembling in my hand. I stood still, straining to hear anything over the pounding of my heart. Then came the crying, soft and definitely female. I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. It was like the walls themselves were crying out of loneliness. "It's just your imagination," I told myself, when my feet were on autopilot as I searched for the teachers' quarters. When I reached it, the sight took my breath away. The room was lit by the pale moonlight streaming through broken windows. Desks and chairs were scattered, and in the center stood a lone figure, a woman with her back to me. I froze, her long hair falling over her shoulders. "Hello?" I said again, my voice cracking. She turned slowly. Her face was blank, smooth as porcelain, with empty black sockets where her eyes should have been. A grotesque grin spreads across her face as she began to float towards me. I stumbled back, my flashlight fell from my hand and shut off as I hit the floor. Darkness swallowed the room, but her figure was still visible, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The laughter grew louder, echoing in my ears, joined by whispers coming from all around me. Then I felt cold, clammy hands brush the back of my neck. My chest tightens and I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Desperate, I grabbed my flashlight and turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness. Gasping for air, I scrambled to my feet and ran, not daring to look back. The tapping followed me, faster now, chasing me down the hallway. I burst out of the building and into the night, my legs barely able to carry me on. When I reached the gate, the laughter stopped, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of the main road. My friends found me about an hour later, sitting on the curb, trembling and crying softly. When asked what happened, I couldn't speak. I just stared back at the path leading to the school, my ears still ringing with that chilling laughter. They didn't need an explanation. The terror in my eyes told them everything. Today, the Tak Tak School is a crumbling shell of its former self, overgrown with vines and hidden from plain sight. Its reputation still remains. Locals avoid speaking its name for fear that they might draw the spirit's attention. But for those who dare to venture to the school and the surrounding area, there is a single rule that is passed down. If you hear a whisper, whatever you do, don't turn around. If you like these kinds of stories, comment down below your country's local urban legends, and I'll create a story around it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.